I'd like to introduce Kerry from the United States, who takes LDN for Hashimoto's. Thank you for joining me, Kerry.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
So, could you tell us what your condition was like when you were first diagnosed?
Well, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's officially in 2002. However, in about the year 2000, I started noticing weight gain, and my hair started falling out, and I was constantly having sinus infections. And as I went to my regular doctor, she would just put me on antibiotic after antibiotic after antibiotic, and I actually ended up in the hospital with C. diff, which is a bacterial infection in your intestinal tract because of overuse of antibiotics. And so after coming out of the hospital from that, I decided that there was probably more going on than I suspected, or even my general doctor suspected. So I went to an endocrinologist who did diagnose me with low thyroid and started me on Synthroid. I felt better for a time, but by 2002, I was once again experiencing weight gain, hair falling out, and I had also moved. So I needed to find somebody new to treat me. And a friend of mine suggested I see her endocrinologist. So I went to the neighboring town where her endocrinologist was practicing and told him all my symptoms, and he ran the TSH, which is the gold standard for measuring hypothyroidism, or, if you have a thyroid problem. And it came back in the normal range. In fact, it was 2.57, which was completely normal. But he felt there was something else going on just because my symptoms fit being hypothyroid, but yet my TSH was normal.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, he decided to run a TPO, which is thyroid antibody test, and it came back over 1,000, which was extremely high.
Mm-hmm.
If you do not have Hashimoto's, it's under 40.
Oh, wow.
So there I was. There was
Wow.
my diagnosis. Yeah. And it was like a light bulb went on for him. He was like, aha, now we know what the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we need to treat it a little bit differently. And so at that time, what he did was he raised my Synthroid, which helped, again, for a period of time. And then I started to feel bad again. Probably, I would say 5 or 6 months went by, and then I started to not feel so great. So that started my search on the internet for Hashimoto's. What did this really mean for me? What were other treatments possibly I could look at? And at that point, I found a Yahoo group that was a great support. There were only, 250, maybe 300 people on the group at that time. And a gal by the name of Jamie Bowthorpe was the moderator of the group, and she had found Armor Thyroid, and it had changed her life dramatically. So in asking questions and interacting with this online support group, I found Armor Thyroid, and I went back to the endocrinologist. Can I use this? And he was extremely open-minded, which is, he was next to a saint because he treated me with respect, and
Mm-hmm.
he was able, he did prescribe Armor Thyroid for me and allowed me to kind of adjust the dose up and down,
Mm-hmm.
because I had done so much research, and I had determined to be a knowledgeable patient. I really wanted, I wanted to know what I was doing,
Mm-hmm.
rather than just believing everything my doctor said.
Can,
Anyway.
can I just interrupt you there for a moment? For people that don't
Sure.
understand what Hashimoto's is like, what was your life like on a daily basis?
Well, my life was, I was exhausted constantly. I would wake up tired and go, it just felt like I drug through the day. And my hair was very thin at the time. You could, just looking at pictures, you could see my scalp very clearly. I was having acne breakouts. I was gaining weight, and not at a phenomenal rate, but 2 or 3 pounds every 2 or 3 months, which added up there. That adds up very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just, my cholesterol was climbing and my blood pressure was going up. So, they wanted to put me on all kinds of medications, and it was just a very frustrating time of life where I didn't feel like myself. And every day, no matter how much sleep I got, I was just exhausted all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. And my skin was so dry. It would just flake off. I'd pull off my stockings at night when I got undressed, and it would just be like a snowstorm. It was just, yuck. It was so horrible. And, and scary at the same time because cholesterol was climbing, blood pressure was climbing, and there was really no answer for it other than, well, you have thyroid disease. And so the more these things climbed, and the more I kind of self-dosed with my doctor's approval. I would go in and have my thyroid blood tests run, and whenever my TSH would get over 0.1, I started to feel bad. Just the other thing that seemed to plague me again was this constant sinus infection, or I'd just get sick at the drop of a hat. Somebody would have a cold, I'd get the cold. Somebody else would get a different cold, I'd get the cold. And my children, who were, of course, going to school, they'd bring home every sickness from school, and I'd get it too. And, that just kind of went on and on and on. As I was able to raise my medicine myself, those things started to resolve themselves. And by the time I drove my doctor nuts, because I go in and they'd say, well, how much are you taking now? And I would be taking just incredible amounts of thyroid medicine. The Armour thyroid is divided by 60 milligrams, or is equal to 1 grain. And by last year, I was on 5 grains, which is a lot. My doctor was like, you're going to have a heart attack.
Oh,
you are on so much thyroid medicine, your bones are going to disintegrate. It was just everything that a hyperthyroid person would have going on. They were afraid that would be happening to me because I was just on so much medication, so that I felt good.
Oh, goodness.
And was able to function.
Mm-hmm.
But last year, then, I started into menopause, and I noticed that my thyroid medicine didn't seem to be working anymore for me. And it started to kind of scare me. And I was in this support group still with Yahoo, which has now moved to Facebook. And a gal by the name of Deb Anderson Eastman was on this same support group. And she mentioned something about LDN and how it helped Hashimoto's patients. And I was just like, oh, maybe I need to look into that. So last September, when I saw her post, I started reading about LDN, which is low-dose Naltrexone, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I started reading, going to all the websites that I could find, and, I Googled it and read everything I could find, and I was like, wow, it seems amazing, almost too good to be true, but I want to check it out just because it seems that people with thyroid disease are being helped immensely, like being able to come off so much medicine. That was the one thing that really struck me, was people were able to decrease and decrease and decrease their medicine. And knowing that my doctor was already so afraid for me, even though I wasn't afraid for myself, she was very afraid for me. I decided I wanted to try it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, deciding to try it and finding somebody who will prescribe it are two different things.
You had a difficult time, did you?
I did. I really did. In fact, my regular doctor had me jump through so many hoops. She made me go to see the endocrinologist. Then I had to have a million blood tests. And it just seemed like it seemed to me that she didn't want to prescribe it, but she didn't want to say that to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the end, she said, well, I'm closing my practice. I'm going into administration, and so you're going to need to find somebody else to be your general practitioner.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay. So here I had jumped through all these hoops for her.
Oh, how disappointing.
So she would, yeah, so it was like, okay, I have to start all over.
Mm.
So I found a new general physician who happened to be new in the area and works with bioidentical hormones, and so I knew she would be a little more probably open-minded. So when I proposed the idea of trying LDN to her, even though she had no idea what it was, she had never heard of it, she was willing to let me try.
Wow. Well, that's good. Mm.
She was very brave.
Yes.
But she said to me, if this works for you, I will use it on my other patients who have the same issue that you do.
Oh.
So in October, I began my LDN journey with the protocol that Deb Eastman prescribes in the Facebook group. Mm-hmm. And at this point, I had joined the Facebook group for beating thyroid disease with LDN, and Deb is a fantastic resource for what to expect. And I got my prescription filled through a pharmacy in Florida, and I started my LDN journey. So the first month, first 3, 4, 5 days, it was a little rough because, and this is something Deb warns about, is that there may be a sleep issue where you don't sleep very well. But that did happen. I spent maybe 3 or 4 nights where I got maybe 2 or 3 hours of sleep, but I had enough energy to get through the day. I didn't need to nap, which was something I was struggling with again, with having to nap in the middle of the afternoon. So that was a huge surprise for me. It's like, wow. And then I started sleeping normally, and I wasn't getting up as often in the night to use the bathroom, which was, ladies know, 3 o'clock nighttime restroom is pretty common. So that result, which I thought was really interesting in that first few weeks of using LDN. So I used the 1.5 milligrams for 4 weeks, and then I went in and I had my labs drawn for free T3 and free T4, and both were up. So I was pretty excited about that, mm-hmm. because that meant I could decrease my medicine. And under my doctor's care, then she decreased me 1 grain. and increased my LDN to 3 milligrams. For the next 4 weeks, then I took 3 milligrams of LDN, and I noticed about 2 weeks into that my energy increased greatly, that my hair seemed softer, and I could feel in my body I was starting to go a little bit into the hyper. I knew I was taking too much thyroid medicine at that point, so I decreased it myself. I went in for labs again at the 4-week point after starting the 3 milligrams of LDN, and again, it was interesting because my TSH was up into the normal range. It wasn't suppressed anymore, and my free T3 and my free T4 were also up. So it was like my thyroid was functioning correctly again.
Mm-hmm.
So she at that point said, we're going to, because the protocol then is to increase again to 4.5 milligrams, and you follow that for 3 months, and that 3 months is when your immune system begins to remodulate. Things start to get better, and I have vitiligo. Are you familiar with what that is?
Yes.
Yeah, I have vitiligo. My vitiligo, which had been spreading pretty rapidly, and I can kind of feel when it spreads, there's a tingly sensation, that totally stopped.
Mm-hmm.
During that 3 months of being in the 4.5 milligram range, that totally stopped. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. And again, I needed to decrease my medicine because I could feel myself. In fact, my blood pressure went up. And I was like, wow, what is going on? My blood pressure's been very stable for a year. And I was like, whoa, something must be wrong. And then it dawned on me, oh, that's right. I probably need to decrease my thyroid medicine. So I did. I decreased my medicine on my own, and within a week, my blood pressure was down in normal.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, I've now been. I finished up the protocol, which is the 3 months of 4.5, and then about 3.5 weeks ago, I dropped back to 3 milligrams, which is kind of where Hashimoto's patients usually end up. They feel good at that decreased dosage. So I've been there about 3.5 weeks now,
mm-hmm.
and feel great. I'm down to 120 milligrams of thyroid medicine, which makes my doctor very happy. They no longer think I'm going to die of a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel good. My hair's not falling out. My skin's nice. Haven't felt my vitiligo at all. So yeah, I feel really good. I feel really good.
So when you have a sleep now, you feel refreshed?
Yes. In fact, I used to dread the alarm clock, and our alarm, and we sleep late for what most people probably get up between 6:30, 7 o'clock. Because of the kind of work we do, we don't even, our alarm doesn't go off till 7:30, and we maybe roll out of bed at 20 to 8.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm awake. I am like awake 6:30, 7 o'clock on my own, totally ready, energy and ready to go. So yeah,
oh, that's amazing.
I no longer have that dreaded fatigue constantly.
So what would you say, Kerry, to other people who've got Hashimoto's that are contemplating trying LDN?
I would totally say go for it. Give it a try. It's made such a huge difference in my life. It's given me my life back, and it's allowed me to decrease the amount of medicine I was on, which, you know, I know my doctors were really worried, and I know I've kind of made light of that, but even when you get up into that five grain area where you're taking 240 milligrams of thyroid medicine every day just to feel good, it was actually kind of scary for me too. I knew it was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say if people with Hashimoto's and you're experiencing the lump, that's another thing, the lump in my throat, the swelling, and then it would go down for a while, and then it would swell up and go down, that has totally stopped. Totally stopped. So the feeling like you can't swallow sometimes, that's totally gone. So if there are people out there who have Hashimoto's and all of the side effects that disease causes, I would absolutely recommend using LDN. Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing your story with us, Kelly.
You're sure welcome. I'm happy to be asked to share my story.